Hello, my friends. I'm very happy that we are together today. This is the first online event of the Mediterranean and Balkan Institute for Astrological Research. The aim for this is for people to reunite and recommunicate about astrology. The first thing that we're going to discuss in this meeting is about traditional astrology and traditional techniques. This is a pre-conference presentation. That means that people is going to show you their work in about 20 minutes, just for a few time to show you what it is going to be the bigger picture in the next year around September 2023, where the main conference is going to happen in Athens, Greece. Today we are going to have some very good and very nice people. I really love them because of their work. They are super professional. They are people that they know really well their job and what they are doing. And of course, you are going to be delighted by their presentations and what they are going to tell you. And I'm very honored because I will going to have them. We are going to have together with us people that are from Europe, Middle East, and I think this is great because finally astrology finds again its roots. So we are going to have together Onur Doser from Turkey, Ehsan Kazeni from Iran, Christian Koenig from Germany, Rumen Kolev from Bulgaria, Patricia Nava from Italy, Yanis Yalamas from Greece, and finally, I'm going to speak for a while myself, also from Greece. Although the main part of the presentation is going to be for our guests because it is our guests, and I really hope that you're going to have a really great time. We have some of them right now with us, and I'm going to present them to you. First, hello, Ner, how are you doing?
Hello, it's great to see you, Christos. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much for being with us. And we have also Ehsan with us right now. Hi, Ehsan. You're online.
Yeah. Hello, Christus. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. And we have Christian Koenig from Germany with City, I don't remember.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm really pleased to be there and thank you for organizing and putting all this together, Christos.
Thank you very much. And for now, we have also again Rumen, but we have two more guests. Hi, Rumen. Rumen is from Bulgaria.
Hello, Christos and everybody else. Very nice to be here.
So I'm not going to take more from your time. We're going to start the presentation from the people. And first is Onur Doser from Turkey. And he's going to speak about Ottoman astrology. And every lecture is about for 20 minutes. So this is going to be like a rapid information flow that I believe you are going to love it. So Onur, the stage is yours. And you are free to speak whatever you are ready to present.
Thank you. I will just first take my slides. Can you see my slides? I think you can see them. Yes, today I will be speaking about predictive techniques in Ottoman astrology, which was practiced for around 500 years, beginning from the 15th century. And the Ottoman astrologers were called as Munejims, actually, and astrology was called as Ilmi Tenjum or Ilmi Ahkam-ı Nujum in the Ottoman. Where it started actually from the time of Mehmed the Conqueror, and after him, his son, Sultan Bayezid II. In his time, astrology was officially in the palace. And beginning from that time until to 1924, astrologers were responsible from the general takwim, which we call actually as yearly forecasting or Ramadan timetables, or sometimes they were making predictions and suggestions astrologically to the man in power, namely, in general, someone from the palace, beginning from the Sultan, actually. They prepare annual calendars, Ramadan timetables, judgment calendars, which is called ahkam. Ahkam means actually to judge. So this was a kind of judgmental astrology, and they made horoscopes of the statesman, which was called Talim Mevlud or Mewalid, which is, as we call today, horoscopic astrology and natal astrology with their transits and the other predictive techniques. They also replied questions, which we call today horary. They were calling it at Mesail, and they observed the transits of the planets, comets, and solar and lunar eclipse, and also they prepare some horoscopes to begin something important, which was we call electional astrology today, which was called in that time as ihtiyarat. And those head menejims, or menejimbaşı we call, they were actually 37 in that around 500 years, and they were responsible also from management of Müvekkitane, which was actually next to the building of mosques, and they were helping the religious men for the prior times, and some actually observational kind of things and some calculation kind of things, mostly making calendars, etc. But they were also teaching astrology in the Müvekkit Hanes. You can see them. They are close to the mosques, just next building of the mosques. And the first of them was Ali Kuşçu, who taught in this kind of buildings, and he had a very great knowledge on astronomy and astrology. And after him, it was like a tradition to teach astronomy and astrology plus calculation or calendar making in this kind of places. So astrology was taught to men who had the knowledge in mathematics, in astronomy, and in astrology as well. And the astrologers were also astronomers, and they had to be good in mathematics. They were graduated from madrasas, which we can call today's universities. And they were elected by the man in court, actually, in general. So they had some responsibilities, such as müvekkitanes, but also observations. And one of them is my mother's side relative, actually, and he was the 35th chief menejim or head menejim of the Ottoman palace. He was responsible between 1903 1909, and he was a very well-educated man who was in contact with Greenwich Observatory as well. And he had a library which he gifted later to the Kandilli Observatory Library, and they were very valuable books. You see that his cloths and the other stamps and the ephemeric kind of books. And now you see me when reporting, interviewing with my elder Arif, who was his actually relative, and the head menejim was his grandfather, and that man died in 1938, just before my elder was born. But he taught me many things about him, or he translated many things from that Ottoman astrologer. So I was interested beginning from 2002, and I started to found a group for translation from Ottoman, Persian, and also from Arabic. And this group was also translated a book of Saadullah el-Ankarawi who was from Ankara, but who has a good networking in Istanbul as well. And his book was 578 pages, but when you translate it and put into word, it is over 1,500 pages. And we published some books from that, translation, which is called Mejmuatul Ahkam. That means the book of all judgments. He was a 19th century astrologer who was born in 1792 in Ankara and died in 1855. And his father and grandfather was also astrologers, as well as his son. And he was also a senior bureaucrat. He lived in the time of Sultan Mahmud II, and he had a strong client network from both Istanbul and Ankara as well. So most of his clients or social area was from bureaucratic kind of men, prominent bureaucrats. So he had many questions from them about, dismissal or, being more successful, or even enthronement, or electional astrology. He was using also electional astrology for starting something important. And he made the book, as I said, in Arabic, Ottoman, and Persian language. Actually, this book, as you see the pages, was included from 3 main languages, and he was very good in these 3 languages. And the charts were square charts, as you can see here. And at the top, this was the beginning of the chart. This is the first house, second house, third house, fourth house, etc. So there are many important information in this book, which was on, for example, educated or education training a child relating to his horoscope, or, for example, judgments of planets in houses, planets in sign kind of things, lunar mansions and eclipses, all electional astrology rules, Hori astrology rules, and Arabic parts also. And also, he was giving information about Haylak, which we call the judgment on the quality of the soul and lifetime of a person, and to find out his length of life. And also judgment via triplicity of the houses, which was used by the Arabic astrologer mostly in the medieval times. And also there are very important information about the Arabic parts. Yes, we have many of them today, but there are some different ones in his book. And also he was giving information about the physical significators of a person, marriage significators, or professional significators, or financial significators kind of things. So he was teaching in this book how to find out the main significators. Actually, as I learned from Robert Sumner, my master many years ago, as being a medieval astrology master, actually. And in this book, he had also in many ingress charts, I think around 180 ingress charts. I mean, when the sun ingress into Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, the 4th season, the old astrologers were calculating this kind of charts to make predictions for every 3 months. So he was giving the formulas or the rules for reading ingress charts, eclipse charts, new moon and full moon charts, and also planetary conjunctions such as Saturn-Jupiter conjunctions, then Saturn-Mars, Saturn-Venus, Saturn-Sun, and then Saturn, Mercury, Moon, etc. And then starting from Jupiter and Mars, Jupiter and Sun, Jupiter and Venus, all of them. So he was giving a huge information about them. And also he was giving the transits of the planets, transiting one planet over the other one. And also he was giving information about some of the fixed stars, such as Sirius, Canopus, that kind of, or Spica, or Algol, as we know today. And as William Lilly used, he was also using the dignity and debility tables. And he was also giving information, as I said, about the Arabic parts as well. And in his book, he was also giving information about to find out what is in the mind of a person or what is in the hand of a person. It was called Zamir by him. So there are some rules about it. Actually, at the moment, I'm working on these rules. It is, very interesting topic, which I didn't see much in the other, old texts. So I'm at the moment interested in it, and I teach also horary astrology class and electional astrology class, and this is a branch of horary astrology to find out what is in the mind of a person, or what kind of a person is that who is asking the question. And if he is hiding something, to find out what he is hiding, for example, in his hand or in his pocket or somewhere in the room or outside, to try to find out that. But these are all the branches of predictive astrology for sure. But Sadullah Al-Karevi was also tended to fall into the category of psychological advisor. He used his skills also as a psychological advisor, as well as he did his astrological competencies. And he was also giving some suggestions how to, arrange something in the life of a person who had, at the moment, imbalances. So he was very close to the branch of astrology as we call today psychological astrology, which was called in Ottoman as teselliyat. That means, yes, you have some difficulties, but you have some solutions as well. So he was also, finding or suggesting some solutions to the charents, which we call charent in horary astrology. And at the ISA conferences, I taught about it, and in my classes, I'm teaching about it. And lastly, I want to show my books in English from School of Astrology Publishing. And one of them is on the left, as you see, from this Ottoman astrologer's extraction, The Strength of the Planets. And the other books are on significators, such as significators of marriage, profession, etc., and predictive astrology. So at the moment, what I will talk about is all these. I think I have my time. Christos, do I have some more minutes, or should I complete? What do you think?
If you have anything to add, of course, you can do it. You have some time.
Actually, I'm a predictive astrologer, and I'm mostly called as traditional astrologer. And I was thinking, we have Hellenistic astrology, we have Arabic astrology, we have Persian astrology that are huge astrologies. But then we have an Ottoman astrology. Actually, this kind of astrology is a mixture of these great three branches: Persian, Arabic, and Hellenistic astrology. So I say why not Ottoman astrology? And I will make classes in this branch very soon. Thank you very much, Christos, for having me.
Thank you very much. And we are going to speak more about this fascinating subject in next September 2023 in Athens.
I'm sure.
Thank you for your time. And
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. And we are going to our next guest we are old friends, very old friends. So let's start and invite with us Ehsan. Hello, Ehsan. Just you have to open. Okay. So we're having you today, and so many fascinating things happening right now in your country. So you will also share some of these things about what is really happening right now in Iran. And also you're going to present about Dashtur. I'm pronouncing it good.
Dastur, yeah.
Oh, so this is your time. Let me just open the presentation for you. And I cannot see your presentation anymore, so you need to upload it once more.
Oh, it's here.
Okay, perfect. And it is your time. Thank you.
Is it the correct one? Yeah, it's the correct one. Okay, so first, I would like to thank you for having me once again. And today, my main topic is about a term called Dastur. It's a Persian astrology technique, and it's really easy and interesting, and it's both philosophical and practical. I will talk about it a little bit later. But as you also said, today, in last 2 weeks, we had some big events happening in Iran. First, a young lady, 22 years old, was arrested by police, and she died or killed. We don't know exactly. People believe that she killed, and police actually announces that she had some illnesses, backgrounds. But anyway, actually she died in custody. And then people came to the streets, and now we have a big presence of people of Iran in the streets, and the big international supports from all the women in the world. So I remember last year, this time, actually, I was in your school, and then actually I talked about the long-term witnessing, and there actually I talked about Saturn and Uranus, the conflict of Saturn and Uranus in the great conjunction of Saturn, which was in Aquarius, Saturn and Jupiter, which was in Aquarius. So there I said actually that the big battle between modernity and antiquity is on the way. And Uranus was in Taurus, and Taurus is somehow related to Iran. I want to go into the very beginning of this issue. You see here is the list of actually Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions in the years 392 and so on. So from this actually air conjunction, series of air conjunctions, actually we see it was the most bright periods of Sassanid Empire. And then in the year 571, the conjunction shifts from air triplicity into water triplicity. And the conjunction happens in 3 degrees of Scorpio. To me, the ascendant of Iran is 3 degrees of Taurus, and 3 degrees Scorpio is the opposite point, the descendant point of Iran. And it was the crack into the Sassanid Empire. And the year 571 is the year that the Prophet of Islam was born. And later in this year 610, we had the conjunction of Aquarius. 12 years after this 622, we had the conjunction of Saturn and Mars exactly on the solar ingress day, exactly on the ascendant degree of Iran. And it was the beginning of fall of Persian Empire. Soon Arabs attacked to Iran, and then actually Sassanid Empire was conquered by Arabs. So Just have this in your mind. Here we had the Earth triplicity conjunctions, unless one triple stolen conjunction happened in 1980, 1981 in Libra, and the last conjunction in the air sign was in Taurus. And the conjunction was on 22 degree of Taurus. We should note it here. And it was on the year 2000. It was the year that actually the young lady was born. And it was actually the generation of the people who are on the streets now, the young boys and girls. And the previous conjunction happened on 0 Aquarius on 2020, December 2020. And I remember that actually last time I talked about the female principles of the world, which will be arising, and female economics and female authority. So these actually things which are happening in Iran is all about the woman. We see the young girls who are leading, the young girls who are fighting, and it's all about the young girls. And the first thing actually you see is actually is that they are against hijab, and but the hijab is not the main reason. It's about forcing hijab. They actually don't like to be dictated to wear something or not wear something. And very soon, the women of the all around the world and the men all around the world started to support this movement. And now look at this chart. There are two important things happened here. First, you are familiar with the Venus star point. In Persian astrology, we call it combustion cycle of Venus. So the combustion cycle of Venus was previously in Scorpio for 144 years. And after 144 years, for the first time, this combustion happens in Libra. Just it's 29 degree of Libra. It means actually there is a shift from the sign which belongs to the Arabs into the sign of liberty, which belongs to actually Scorpio is a sign of very radical sign and associated with Arabs. And Libra is a sign of liberty. And interestingly, it's 29 Libra. And on the solar ingress, 21st March 2022, the moon was exactly on 29 Libra. And the ascendant of Iran was also Libra. So this is actually, I believe that actually when on October 11th, I guess, when actually Sun and Venus meet on 29 Libra, it falls on the moon of the solar ingress, and we will have more. We will see that more women of the world are joining to ask their own rights, and they are asking for their equality, which was ignored for 150 years. So these are the simple observations. And here, on the same chart, we see North Node or Rahu is on 23 degree of Taurus. If I go back one slide, we see that 23 degree of Taurus is exactly the conjunction point of 2000, 22 and 43 degree of Taurus. So actually, the issues created from 2000 to 2020 are going to be solved, and the issue belongs to the Taurus, to the woman, to the life, and to the freedom. So this is all the things actually people are shouting these days: woman, freedom, woman, life, and freedom. So it was the observations for these days, and we can also see that just the next solar eclipse happens exactly on 3 degree of Scorpio. Just 3 days after Sun and Venus meet on 29 Libra, we have on 24 October, actually we have the eclipse exactly on the 3 degree of Scorpio. So actually the seed which sowed here, which planted here, might be somehow disrooted. So it might be a very big change for the Islamic views in Iran. And let's see what is going on. So After these observations, let's go to my topic for today, which is Dastur. And this technique frequently mentioned in different books, and it has a meaning which means a title for high Zoroastrian priests, or it also means minister, and it's Dastur actually turned into doctor. So because the word doctor is actually has a religious meaning and a meaning for high a high title for people in the church. And astrologically, Dastur is a planet which is associated for higher responsibilities or authorities by either the sun as the king or the queen as the moon, because actually the planet which becomes Dastur is the minister of sun or the moon. Such a planet is in Dastur for the sun or the moon and can do all the good things. Actually, that planet has a lot of responsibilities and is can be considered as the most powerful planet in the chart. So there are 4 types of Dastur. Type of 1 is a certain relationship between the sun and superior planets in form of oriental and occidental way. Type 2 is certain symmetry for a domicile planet and luminaries, which is actually the type we are talking about today, and I will talk about the rest of types in the next year for the main conference. The type 3 is certain placements based on houses and lords, and type 4 is certain relationship between dignified planets. So we are going to study the type 2, which is the symmetry of domicile planet and luminaries. There is a basic definition for the zodiac, which is the dominion of the sun and the moon. So from 0 Leo to 0 Aquarius is the dominion of the sun, and the other half is the dominion of the moon. And we see the lordship of the planets are actually equal in both sides. So this is a very basic yet important harmony in the zodiac. And based on this actually division, we can define the aspects. Natural aspects according to the sun are conjunction in the nature of Leo and sun, and then we have sextile on the nature of Libra and Venus. We have a square on the nature of Mars, and we have trine on the nature of Jupiter. Finally, we have Saturn on the nature of opposition on the nature of Saturn, sorry, and the sign Aquarius. So actually the basic quality of the aspects are related to the basic relationship from the sun, 0 Leo, to the signs and the planets, their lords. We can do the same for the 0 Cancer. So from 0 Cancer, we still have sextile and Venus, but this time it's about Taurus, not Libra. For a square, again, we have Mars, but this time it's about Aries, not Scorpio. And for the trine, we have Jupiter again, but this time for Pisces, and opposition for Capricorn, not Aquarius. So the same distances from the sign of sun and from the sign of the moon are shaping the nature of the aspects. According to that, when a planet is in domicile and the distance of that planet to the sun or to the moon is as equal as their natural aspect in either side, the planet becomes in Dastur of that luminary. So here there are some examples. From Leo to Libra is the distance for a sextile, and this is a distance for a Venus. So if the sun is either in Leo or in Sagittarius in both sides, the sun becomes the Venus becomes in Dastur of the sun. Or for the Mars, we count from Leo to Scorpio. Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, 4 signs. Then we can count again from Scorpio for the same number of signs. Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. So if the sun is in Leo or Aquarius and the Mars is in domicile in Scorpio, then the Mars is in dastur of sun. For Jupiter, if Jupiter is in Sagittarius and sun is in Leo or Aries, it's a trine between sun and Jupiter by sign, and sun is either in Leo or Aries, and Jupiter is in Sagittarius. So these are some examples of dasturs. And then we can actually complete the same examples for the sun or for the moon. So here, for example, we have Venus in Taurus and moon either in Cancer or Pisces. Mars in Aries, moon in Cancer or Capricorn. Jupiter in Pisces, moon in Cancer or Scorpio. So in some cases, we see that, for example, here, sun is in detriment in Aquarius, but still Mars goes to the dastur of sun. Mars becomes a minister of the sun. It doesn't matter if the sun is in detriment and weak. Or here, Mars, here, for example, Jupiter goes into dastur of moon. It doesn't matter if the moon is in Scorpio. Jupiter works perfect. So dastur is about the planet, not about the sun and the moon. So here, although the moon is debilitated, Jupiter works very perfect. And some astrologers also define the secondary dasturs. So they say, for example, Mars in Aries. Actually, Aries is not in this realm of the sun. It's not in the dominion of the sun. It's in the dominion of the moon. But it's still a distance between Mars and sun from Aries and Leo can be considered. So Mars in Aries, sun in Leo or Aquarius. Jupiter in Pisces, sun in Leo or Libra. So and also for the moon. But astrologically, Venus and Mercury cannot be in dastur of sun, because actually Venus is, if we consider the Taurus cannot be, actually Venus cannot be 4 signs apart from the sun. So astrologically, Venus and Mercury cannot be dastur of the sun. And also there are some objections here. You see here the symmetry from Leo to Saturn, from Saturn to Gemini. So here Saturn in Capricorn and Sun in Leo are not in any kind of connection, or they are in conjunct, but yet actually it's considered very good. So Sun in Leo and Saturn in Capricorn works perfect. Saturn is in dastur of Sun. And also Sun in Gemini and Saturn in Capricorn can be a dastur of Sun. So this is one of the problems here. Another problem is about the malefic nature of the planets. So Sun and Mars are in a square. Sun in Leo, Mars in Scorpio, and they're in a square. And it might bring some psychological conflicts. It might bring some conflicts with the power. But yet Mars follows the Sun. Mars is the minister of the sun, and Mars is the most powerful planet in the chart. Sometimes we have unfavorable dignities for the moon and the sun, like the debilitated sun for Jupiter in Pisces, or debilitated moon for Jupiter in Pisces. Yet Jupiter is very powerful, although the luminaries may not work well. Another issue here is that actually the retrogression of superior planets, like because actually here Saturn is definitely retrograde, because it's almost opposite to the sun. These are the issues, can be later actually, we can talk about them. Just a few quick examples we can take a look. Here you see, for example, Venus is in Libra and Sun is in Sagittarius. If we count from Leo to Libra and again Libra to Sagittarius, we see that actually it's in dastur. So Venus in dastur of the Sun for Woody Allen, although it's actually in double square with Pluto and Mars, somehow overwhelmed with hard aspects, but still it works very well as an artist. Another example is Francis of Assisi, the saint of animals and nature. So he also has Venus in Libra, close to South Node, but this Venus is actually in dastur of the Sun, and Sun is Sagittarius. So actually, he spends his Venus in a uses his Venus in a perfect way. Another case is Oprah Winfrey. Here, Mars is in domicile and Sun is in Aquarius. So he has Mars again in some hard aspects with Pluto, but actually, despite the hard life she had, she's a leader. She fights, and she's she's a very executive person and uses her Mars energy. One more case is Matt LeBlanc here. As you see, actually, he has debilitated Venus, but although Venus is debilitated, actually he's very artist. And here again, you see that Mars is in own sign, in the exact square with the Sun. Yet, actually, his Mars works very well. We can go into the details later. And the last example, I think the time is up. The last one is for Pierre Docan, the French composer, violinist, and music educator. He also has Venus debilitated, but it's interesting because actually his Venus has an aspect from the moon, applying aspect from the moon from Taurus, its own domicile. It's also in Antacia with Mars. And finally, it's actually Jupiter in Pisces and Sun in Libra. Actually debilitated Sun, but Jupiter is in dastur of Sun, and Jupiter also aspects his Venus. So the Venus is fully supported by different planets, especially this dastur, which is in the exaltation. Jupiter is almost in the exaltation degree of the Venus, and fully supports the Venus. So the planet, which is dastur, actually can override its quality in the chart. And it was a very quick review of dastur type 2. And I believe actually the three other types of dastur can be also very interesting. Which we will study them in the next conference. Okay, is there any question, Christos?
No, and probably they are going to ask you from close because we don't have plenty of time right now. But I'm pretty sure that the presentation was really good because I really loved it. We are going to have you next September 2023 in Athens. Hope at least not having any kind of incidents. We live in a turbulent region, so even if you cannot come in a body, we can have you again through communication in the internet. And if you have any questions for Hassan, you can write down the question in the video, and Hassan by itself is going to answer to you. So if you have any kind of question, even later when you're going to hear this event, because this event is broadcast in all over the world right now, I'm pretty sure that Hassan is going to answer to you. He's a great guy and he knows pretty well what he's saying. So thank you again for your time, Hassan, and hope to have you soon again with us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day. And we are having now with us Christian Koenig from Germany. Welcome, Christian.
Thank you, Christos. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk at your conference.
Thank you very much for being here and participating. It's a honor. So You're going to speak about the fixed stars, and the time is yours. Thank you very much again.
So probably I'm the sore thumb here because I want to try to build a bridge between tradition and modernity. So I want to bridge what traditional astrology has to say about fixed stars with modern astronomical knowledge. That's the thing I want to talk about. And I think let's start. As you may know, it all starts with a point, and a point is not a plane, nor does it have a spatial dimension. This is Euclid's 2,000-year-old definition. And a point is a circle with a radius of 0. The point equals nothingness and emerged out of nothingness, but it created everything. So the whole universe emerged out of one point, the Big Bang. And you know, the whole cosmos is one body in which everything is connected. And while astronomy moves forward the future at lightning speed, astrology remains stuck in the past. And this, I think, has been a bitter necessity because we urgently needed to appreciate and understand our own roots, our heritage. As Ona said, Robert Zoller's work, Rob Hand's work, Project Hindsight, Van Dyke's, Chris Brennan, really thank you for giving us back our roots. In astrology, most of us delineate planets, and we look only as far as the limits of our solar system and hardly beyond it. Ptolemy and Kepler were not just astrologers, as you know. Of course, they were also scientists working at the level of the knowledge of their time. And I think if Ptolemy were alive today, he would certainly be using all the exciting insights of modern astronomy and using it astrologically. And in my lecture, I would like to build a bridge between tradition and modernity. So stars, nebula, galaxies, and star clusters, fixed stars, what do they mean? What relationship do they have with us and we with them? The roots of today's fixed star astrology are in the past. And in the 1st century CE, the stars were seen as mysterious points of light that never changed their position in relation to each other. So they were organized in an eternal order. And this is why we speak of fixed stars. As most of you may know, the fixed stars belong to another sphere that was superior to the planets. And the planets described worldly affairs on Earth, while the fixed stars were responsible for divine destiny. But times have changed, and so has our knowledge. And today we know that these mysterious points of lights are suns that are very similar to our sun. So they are anything but fixed. Actually, they move. So there are cosmic beings with an origin and an end. And we should first understand the stars, nebulae, and galaxies. And when we know their lives, about their lives, we automatically can derive astrological interpretations from them. The parallels between humans and stars are amazing. Like us, stars are born, grow up, live their lives, and then die. And each star is in one of these 3 life stages, depending on its physical characteristics. In astrology, we know this triad, of course, as cardinal and fixed and mutable. So Each star can be assigned to one of these three principles, which in Hinduism are the three aspects of the divine. We have Brahma, the creator, and Vishnu, the preserver, and of course Shiva, the destroyer. So let's go on that journey. New stars are formed from giant nebulae consisting mainly of hydrogen, and gravity causes a nebula to condense into a cloud of gas and dust over millions of years. When it has become dense enough, it collapses due to its own gravity, and a star precursor, a protostar, is formed. After 30 million years, its center is so hot and dense that something magically happens. The proton fuse to form helium, and when this nuclear furnace ignites, a young star is born. And it now generates its own energy. The star-birthing nebula and protostars symbolize the principle of generative creation. So something new emerges from this initial impulse. And this phase can be compared to the cardinal principle. And for us on Earth, it symbolizes the beginning of the 4 seasons. And when astrologically delineating objects, stellar objects in this phase, the primordial cardinal impulse is always involved. So creating something new, but not securing what has already been achieved. These stars always have something to do with assertiveness and the suppression of the old. They set things in motion and deal with pioneering or developmental work. A star that has left this turbulent phase behind begins its so-called main sequence. It burns steadily. The energy that is released radiates into space, and perhaps a tiny, tiny part of it reaches us here on Earth. So we see a star in the night sky. And this phase is what most of us understand a star to be, a sun burning the cosmic food provided by the mother nebula while continuously radiating. And the star now has its life ahead of it. In its main sequence, the star experiences its prime, so from youth to maturity, just like us humans. So stability, constancy, and constant manifestations are the hallmarks of this phase, which of course corresponds to the principle of fixity. And in the astrological interpretation of fixed stars in their main sequence, this consolidating, stable influence is always involved. So these stars preserve what is present, secure, and stabilize the status quo, and then bring it to a climax. At some point, the hydrogen is used up. The core of the star contracts and its shell inflates. Such inflated stars are called giants, and they can be blue or red. And depending on the color, they have a different fate. So red giants end their lives gently. They softly release their atmospheres into space, and this creates a gas shell around the star, the so-called Planetary Nebulae. This has nothing to do with planets. It is called this because when viewed with an old telescope, these gas shells resembles the rings of Saturn. On the other hand, stars that are at least 8 times larger than our sun have a more spectacular exit. They are called blue giants. And their mass is so great that at some point their core collapses. And this leads to a gigantic explosion, a so-called supernova, releasing enormous amounts of energy. Its radiation destroys everything in its wake. So, a planetary nebula or supernova remnant is a process of dissolution and redistribution. Something comes to an end, but already contains a seed of the new. And astrologically, this is, of course, the mutable principle. The old season is coming to an end, but the new one has not yet begun. So the wealth of experience wants to be used. If one commits oneself, one loses oneself. There are other bridges between tradition and modernity by which we can get a clue to the astrological meaning of a fixed star. And unfortunately, due to the time constraints, we don't have the opportunity to go in this depth today. But as Christos said, we have the opportunity next year in September. Just very briefly, I mean the color of a fixed star. A very ancient way to learn about the meaning of a fixed star is its color. Here, above all, the spectral class of the fixed star is important. And the second level, of course, are the myths attributed to a star. Of course, the mythological level is at least as important for the astrological interpretation and meaning of the stars as the astronomical level. Science evaluates facts and makes them usable, and mythology prepares these facts for the human psyche and helps us to process them. And of course, we should also use these insights for the exploration of the stars. And the last level, in which system lives the star. Is it a single star or a binary star system, a ternary or quadruple system, or a globular star cluster? Like humans, most stars do not live alone, but in relationships of 2 or even 1,000 stars. And I found out this has some meaning. And when you put all this information together, you get a first impression, a first idea of what this fixed star is about astrologically. And there are so many exciting things to discover here that a scientific mind like Ptolemy would surely have used them astrologically if he had known them. You know, when the universe was young, there were only hydrogen and helium. But we breathe oxygen, our cells are based on carbon, and our blood needs iron. And these more complex elements were forged much later into giants. So supernova explosions or planetary nebula blew them into our corner of space, and their material formed our sun and the earth, and finally life developed from them. We humans would not have been possible in the early days of the universe. Planets like Earth could not have existed. So a dying star is always contribution to the emergence of new generations. So the atoms of your nose once originated in a star. Billions of years ago, a giant star was produced and then generously blew itself up into outer space. And from its offerings, all the elements that made up the earth with its plants and animals were created. So we owe the fact that we exist to past generations of stars. And I think for today, this is a good place to stop, but not without looking back. When I look back, I see stars releasing themselves into space. And because of that, we are possible. So we are far more than just the planets. Also, astrologically, we are recycled stars. We are the part of the cosmos that asks for itself. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we integrate that into astrology? That's a nice final point. So I'm stopping here. Although, if you get involved with the universe, you better give up on trying to find an endpoint. So the point doesn't fit after all. That's why I simply make many points that invite you to think ahead. Thank you. That was me. Hopefully see you next year in September.
Thank you very much for your time, and I'm pretty sure that we are going to have a really great time in September 2023. And I hope you are going to have a great time right now there in Germany. So thank you again. And from Germany, we are going to Bulgaria. And with us today is Rumen Kolev. Hello, Rumen.
Hello.
And you're going to speak about ancient tradition, Hellenistic astrology. Just prepare your share screen because right now they will not see what.
Okay. let me show you what I have prepared here. Do you see it?
Wait a minute. Yes, everyone can say it and have a good time and sharing your knowledge.
Okay. So we know very well that in the ancient tradition.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You need to show the presentation because now you're sharing your screen and it shows us.
Okay. Okay. Let's show it again here. All right. Okay. So, okay. Now we know that from ancient times until well into the 15th century, in astrology, there was something which I call the Holy Trinity, which is the Helic, the Alcocuden, and the Almuden. So, who are these guys? These guys are usually planets. In the case of the Helic, it can be also ascendant, or it can be even some astrologers talk about MC being Helic, like Valence. So ascendant, moon, sun, part of fortune, and the syzygy in most of the authors were valid candidates for being Helic. But first of all, what are these three guys? Let's start with the Helic. The Helic is the source of life. This is a place on the sky, a point on the sky, from where the life spark came into the body of the newborn. So, according to some astrologers, this life spark is some kind of light particle, photon, which goes into the heart of the baby and stays there until the end of the life. And so here I show you how it is in ancient Greek, in Latin, and the translation is the source of life. All right, or here for Aphetes is like a launcher, the sacred one, or the supreme leader, the highest authority, the Lord of life, the place of life. And the most astrologers who are looking at these 5 planets, at these 5 points, which are here, all right? And this is like the conditions for a point to be the helix is that it must be in strong position, in strong house. And strong position by house and by sign. So the next one, the Alcocuden, is a planet. It is a planet which rules the helix. And this is usually a planet which gathers many rulership into the place where the helix is. So it's by sign, by bounds or terms, or also by trigonocracy. And it also must throw aspects to the helix in order to be Alcocuden in most of the system. Okay, look, we should never forget that there are many different authors, and each of them have his own system of finding out the helix and the Alcocuden, but they have also common principles, things that are common to all of them, but the application is different. So the helix, as I said, must be in a strong position. Otherwise, life will not be possible for this person. The Alcocuden must be the planet which has most rulerships into the place of the helix, and who has some kind of connection with the helix through aspect. But not only through aspect, it can be also through parallel, even through some zodiacal parallel, or maybe even mundo parallel. So this is the main principle for the Alcocuden. It must has a rulership into the place of the helix, and must throw aspect or some kind of other connection with the helix. So the Alcocuden, according to the ancient authors, gives the years of life. Okay, so and it determines, of course, the length of life. So the Alcocuden actually is the guardian angel. The guardian angel, because everything in the chart, it's like the symbol of something which really exists in the real world, not only in our mental astrological world. So the Alcocuden is just the symbol of a real spiritual being, which is the guardian angel. And the guardian angel is sent by God when the baby is born, and he spends all the time until the life is finished. And the main task of the guardian angel is to guard the life of this person until the time comes. Okay, so the fact that the Alcocuden is the guardian angel, this is given and confirmed by actually the Porphyrius, by the philosophy Porphyrius, and in his letter to Anebo, there is this work belonging to Porphyrius' letter to Anebo, where he states some very interesting notions, astrological and spiritual. He connects the spirituality with astrology, and one of these doctrines which we can see there is that the Alkokuren actually stands for the guardian angel. So, all right, then now we can go to the so-called Almuten or Kyrios, which means the Lord of the chart, the victor, or Almuten means in Arabic the victor, or the planet which is the strongest planet in the chart. And actually, this is the main topic of this short talk now. So this is extremely important. The Almuten is extremely important because basically, if we know the Almuten of a person, then we will know a lot about the character and the general fate of this person. So the Almuten is a planet, one of the 7 classical planets which are visible on the sky, and in this respect, we can divide the people into 7 groups, depending on the Almuten of these people. So what is here interesting is that everyone is like a copy of this Almuten. For example, let's take Mars or Ares. Every person who has Mars like an Almuten is like a small copy of Mars himself. He has or she has the same character as Mars, the same behavior to a very big extent, and he gets in the same situations like Mars, and the rest, and the same with the other planets. And in addition to this division of 7 big groups, we can also subdivide each group in 2. If the planet is positive or if the planet is negative. So we will have, for example, a group of people with Almuten Mars, positive Mars, good Mars, and we will have a group of people with Mars as Almuten, but negative Mars, bad Mars. So how we can pinpoint whether Mars is good or bad, or the other planets will the most easy way is like to see whether this planet, the Almuten, is in Chais or out of Chais, whether the planet is in sect or out of sect. So we know the Sun, Jupiter, Saturn are day planets, and if the birth is during the daytime, then these planets are feeling good. They are in Chais or in sect. If on the opposite, the birth is during the nighttime, then Jupiter, the Sun, and Saturn do not feel good, and they do not behave very well and very harmonious. So they are out of sect and out of Chais. And the same with the night planets, the Moon, Venus, and Mars, and Mercury. As we know, he can be either, depending on his position in the chart. All right, so how do we assess who is the Almuten in the given chart? It is a simple procedure. It's like the strongest planet. So the first thing that we look at is the house where are the planets. And okay, strength, yeah, here strength of the houses. Yeah, here are different, okay, like the Almuten is the strongest planet. So which one will be the strongest planet? The strongest planet, first of all, should be visible. if a planet is invisible to the naked eye, then it is considered weak, and it is considered dead to some in some respect, and a dead person cannot be the king of a country. If we resemble the chart as a country, then the Almuten is the king of this country. So the king must be powerful. He must be alive, first of all, which means visible. He must be strong. He must be in a strong position. So the Almuten, the ideal place, will be either on the meridian or on the ascendant. Then comes the descendant, then comes the IC, and then comes this area around the meridian, which in most cases will be the 9th house or the 11th house. So this area around the horizon, eastern or western, or around the upper meridian, like a white area around the upper meridian, is the best place for the Almuten to be. Porphyrius even mentions a school of astrology in the ancient world, where they pinpoint the Almuten with the planet which is on the meridian. And he says, if there is no planet on the meridian, then they take the planet which is the first to go on the meridian. So this is a very simple procedure. All right. Of course, yeah. Here you can see which are the strongest houses. So we look in this. Well, we look at planets in these houses, if there is so, depending on where is MC. Okay, day and night planets, the highs. Okay, helical phases also are a very, very important. A planet in a helical phase can pretend for the crown of the given chart. All right, so okay, helical Kokuden. So very, very interesting is actually the helic. How well, there are different authors. I follow the system of Porphyrius. So Porphyrius, he has like two separate procedures to figure out who is the Almuten. In the first procedure, he finds the so-called candidates to be Almuten, and they must have some rulership in the ascendant, as you see here. They either have to be present on the ascendant in the rising sign or the rising bounds, or they must have rulership over the ascendant in sign or bounds. So they also must have rulership over the moon, over the MC, over the part of fortune, and over the CZ. And he will look at the bounds and the sign, at the terms and the sign only. Interesting point here is that he doesn't look at the sun, but the moon. Well, so also Porphyrius says that also planets in helical phase can be candidates. So after he figures out all these planets who have rulership in these places here, then he inspects them, how strong they are. Are they in a strong house? Are they morning stars? Porphyrius writes that the oriental planets are much stronger. So then he he goes for whether they are in their own dignities. Venus in Taurus, Mars in Aries. So they also he will look at the level of highs. Night planet in night chart, day planet in day chart, and the level of highs there are like 5 or 6 levels of highs. Also, he looks at whether this planet has aspects to the ascendant, the sun, or the moon, and then he picks up the planet from these candidates, which has which gathers most of the points. In contrast to Porphyrius, the other authors, well, maybe I can probably show you here. All right, this is my own chart, so I will show you here. Okay, if we go here to, let's say, Almuten. Okay, Porphyrius Wizard. Here are how it looks in my own chart. Mercury gathers a lot of points as rulership, 5 points as followed by Mars. But you see what happens next. Mars is actually much stronger in house position and everything else than Mercury, because look at the chart. Mars is right there on the MC. So it is very logical Mars to be the Almuten. So I want also to show. Yeah, here we can do very different calculations. Of course, we can look also at the other authors, and the other authors they don't look at how strong is the position of the Almuten. They look only at the rulerships of the planets, and they pick the planet which has the most rulerships. So they go here. Okay, he is Dorotheus, as much as we can guess from his writings. So here is Ptolemy. Of course, some Arab authors here: Omar Tiberiades, Ben Ragel, Alcapitius, Regiomontanus. Different authors. For example, Omar Tiberiades, he looks at the house rulership, at the exaltations, at the all trigonocracies and the bounds, the terms, and he gives them 1 point to each of them, and then he inspects the position of the sun, the ascendant, the syzygy, the moon, the part of fortune, and here is what actually the result here is: Mars gathering most of the point, 8 points. So let's see some other author. Ben Ragel. Ben Ragel gives 5 points to house rulership, 4 to exaltations, and so on. So there is this difference between the authors, and which led me this led me to believe that actually we can have 2 kinds of Almutens. Like one kind is the so-called Almuten de jure, which describes the inner core of the personality, or this is the planet with most rulerships in the important places. So, okay. However, this planet can be in very weak house, and the planet can be invisible, which is not very good. Some authors talk about so-called charts, like with a fallen Almuten, if the Almuten is invisible or in a bad house. But also we can talk about Almuten de facto, which I believe is what the person projects outward in society. And this is a little bit more superficial layer, some kind of social mask. So this is the most powerful planet by house position. And this planet cannot be invisible. So the most important thing here when we assess this is to look whether it is in highs or not. As I said, day planet in a day chart is in highs, and in night chart out of highs, and the opposite for the night planets. We can see also here in the program we can see even Helic, Alcocuden, let's see, Helic, Alcocuden, Almuten system. We can look here for every author how he goes describing the Helic and the Alcocuden. This is, for example, Ptolemy, Porphyrius, and so on. And we can see all of them at once, actually. So look here. What is very interesting is that on the right side, the Almuten, or the ego, which is the character of the person, Kyrios or Kyrios, is computed in 5 different ways. Like the simple one is the first column, just with rulership, nothing else. The next column, we will get rid of the invisible planets. In the third column, we will get rid not only of the invisible, but also of the cadent planets, or planets which are in weak houses, like the 3rd house, the 6th house, the 12th house. So in the 4th column, we will disqualify invisible as well as cadent planets. And in the last column, we will apply the full Porphyrius Magus algorithm, where we will look at all these things that Porphyrius wrote about. And here in this chart, which is actually my chart, we can see that in everywhere we see Mars, everywhere. So this is like a clear-cut case where the character of the person is very, very unambiguous, and it is actually the same. So if we see, I have seen charts, for example, here all planets are Venus, or all planets are Jupiter, but in most of the people, this is mixed. We can see all kinds of planets there. So maybe I have 2 or 3 minutes. Let's see somebody else, for example. Let's just take anyone here. We don't have much time to pick. All right, so we go here to, all right, let's see how is the, well, yeah, he is, well, Mars and a little bit Venus here. So let's maybe some Adolf Hitler. Well, this guy has Saturn around the MC. Porphyrius Magus will immediately say, wow, this guy has Saturn for Almuten. So let's see, how does it look here? He is much more various. So we see here many different planets. We have Mercury, Venus, even Jupiter, and of course Saturn. So yeah, so this is extremely important. If we know the Almuten of a person, we know so much about this person, so much. Maybe 70-80% of his character and of his fate. So another thing is that even if we don't know the chart of a given person, we can look at his behavior. We can look at how he walks, how he talks, what kind of gesticulation he or she makes, his or her eyes, how she looks, um, um, what kind of faces they make, and by all this, we can judge. We can have some kind of hypothesis which planet would be the almuten for this person. So even without knowing the chart of this person, I have done this exercise, and then I would go and I will make the chart and figure out with Porphyrios algorithm, who is the almuten, and very amazingly, in most of the cases, they would coincide. So the almuten that I figured out by just personal psychological observation coincides with the almuten which is given by the program with the Porphyrios algorithm. So, well, I guess the time is up.
Thank you very much, Rumen, for all this knowledge and your help of understanding many things that sometimes were lost in the test of time. And you're very close to Athens, so we're going for sure to having you this September 2023 in the conference that is going to happen in Athens. And I'm pretty sure that people are going to be fascinated by all this information. Thank you again, and have a good night there. And
Thank you.
let's
Thank
go
you very much.
from Bulgaria to another neighboring nation, and let's go to Italy and Patrizia Nava. Hello, Patrizia.
Hello. Thank you, Christos, for having me.
Thank you very much for your presence here. So let me open your PowerPoint, and you have your time to present what we are going to speak in more depth in September 2023.
Certainly. Now I'm speaking of success in the chart according to William Lilly, just some hints. In the introduction to the reader of the Almanac, England's Prophetical Merlin of 1644, so almost 3 years before the publication of Christian Astrology, William Lilly declares his plans for the future, writing, "I intend, God willing, the Sun and Saturn 1647 not impeding, to enlarge Dario and fit him with examples of all kinds, and to make some pieces of Ptolemy speak English." Well, I think that this statement is interesting for several reasons. First of all, because of the mention of Claude Dario, a French astrologer of the previous century, who was specialized in horary astrology and decambutures because he was a practicing doctor, as a source for Lilly's work. Then the mention of Ptolemy, the recognition of his seminal role in astrology, and then the mention of the date 1647. 1647 will be the actual real date of publication of Christian astrology. So the mention of that date, together with some astrological consideration about the Sun and Saturn, means probably that that date was the result of an astrological election. So we can say that old, ancient, traditional techniques and traditional forms of astrology are present in Lilly's work and have a great place, especially Ptolemy's work, of course, but interrogations, first of all, the decambuture, like in Dario, and even electional astrology. But the real purpose, the real aim of Christian astrology is educational, I would say. So Lilly wants to teach astrology in a new way, in English, even to those who are not able to read Latin, to those who have not any kind of academic education. He wants to write a sort of bestseller for a wide public, an astrological handbook easily comprehensible by anyone. And since his purpose is educational, we can expect very short lists of items and schemes, very clear schemes about the significators to be considered while examining a certain argument, like, for example, the testimonies of success in the chapters dedicated to the 10th house. And this is the list we find, in fact, at the very beginning of those chapters. The first point, Lilly writes, is that honor, preferment, dignity, and estimation is principally required from the luminaries, wherein the sun is most considered, and from the planets, which, within the mediety of their orbs, do behold the lights, especially the sun. In modern terms, this means that the luminaries, and especially the sun, are always to be considered and examined, together with all the planets that are in aspect with them. Then we have the Lord of the mid-heaven, the 10th house, the planet or planets constituted in the mid-heaven, that means present in the 10th house, and then from the fixed regal stars of the first or second magnitude posited near the cusp of the 10th or first house. Now, the first 3 points are referred to planetary significators. So the planets are able to give us a first brief, sometimes cursory information about the potential for success of the native according to their degree of dignity, essential dignity and accidental strength as well. So if the luminaries, the Lord of the 10th house, the planets present in the 10th house have great essential dignity, major one, by domicile or exaltation at least, or if they are in mutual reception, a major mutual reception by domicile or exaltation, then the lucky owner of that nativity could, as Lilly writes, aspire to honors, offices of public trust, great commands, exceeding favor, and good esteem among great persons. If the essential dignities are of a mediocre level, even the effects will be mediocre, down to depriving the native of any possibility of promotion or advancement when they are in serious debility. And equally, accidental strength that is judged by Lilly mainly through the house where the planets are placed, but not only by that, will give a degree of success that is connected, that is related to the fact that the planets are in angular houses or succedent houses down to cadent houses. As for the fourth point, that is referred instead to the fixed stars. The fixed stars are able to give great gifts, to confer honor and fame, exceptional success, provided they are regal stars, quite bright, first or second magnitude, and not too far from the ecliptic. Well, the stars that are explicitly mentioned by Lilly in this context are the ones you can see here. Oculus Tauri, that is Aldebaran, in tropical Gemini, Hercules, that is Pollux, in tropical Cancer, Corleonis, Regulus. Once it was in tropical Leo, now at the first degree of Virgo. Spica Virginis in Libra, Lucida Lancis in Scorpio. Well, there are two Lucida Lancis, Australis and Borealis, and Lilly doesn't tell us which one of the two is speaking of, but he mentions the longitude that in the 17th century was about 9 degrees and 45 Scorpio, so we can deduce that the star he's speaking of is Lucida Lancis Australis, in this case, Alpha Librae, the one on the ecliptic, Luben e Genubi, and then Cor Scorpii, Antares, in tropical Sagittarius. However, many more stars will be mentioned by Lilly in the following chapters, in the example of Nativity, the famous Nativity of the English merchant. I find particularly interesting the fact that Lilly says that the stars have crucial importance when we speak of fame and honor. And he writes that in collecting the testimonies of honor, the judicious, the good judging, so good astrologers, allow for such a conjunction 3 testimonies. Clearly, when we speak of eminence, fame, glory, the power of the fixed stars is so great to exceed up to 3 times the power of the planets. And in fact, Lilly reports some ancient aphorisms concerning the fixed stars, and the first says that fixed stars give great gifts and elevate even from poverty to an extreme height of fortune, while the 7 planets do not so, are not able to do the same. But the primacy of fixed stars as indicators of success should not overshadow the importance of examining the whole nativity, because it is true that the fixed stars in angles, writes Lilly, give admirable preferment, but if the planets do not together with that support it, usually it ends in calamity. These are ancient aphorisms we can find, in fact, in all ancient books, medieval books. They are present in the Centiloquium, in Bonatti as well, among Lilly's favorite sources. But we shouldn't think that Lilly's method, while mentioning these aphorisms, is aphoristical only or dogmatic. Quite the reverse. Lilly devotes 5 chapters to the exam of all the conditions and configurations that predict success in the horary chart in the second book, and 5 other chapters to an exam of all the same conditions that are present in the nativity in the third book. So 10 chapters are devoted to this topic. So he analyzes every variable in a series of personal statements, not only traditional aphorisms. He is not inclined to use aphorisms in a dogmatic way. His approach takes always into account the general situation, the character of the person involved, his social status, and so on, in a continuous confrontation with what I would like to call, borrowing the term from psychology, the reality principle. I mean, not everything is possible in the life of everyone. Thus, he writes, many are the aphorisms which antiquity has delivered to us concerning judgment appertaining to the 10th house. A few thereof I shall deliver, desiring the astrologer not to delude himself by delivering a positive judgment upon a single aphorism. For a beggar's child may have a nativity equal with a king's, but then they are not both the sons of kings. Therefore, when an exceedingly favorable primary direction hits exact in both charts, the chart of the beggar's child and the chart of the king's child, while the prince will obtain immense honors thanks to that influence, the young and lucky beggar will simply come to a condition of life less sordid than before. Whereas the king has immense riches allotted to him by parliament, by his people to finance his glorious enterprises, the beggar will receive money himself, but probably will receive unusually bountiful alms from some generous people, not more. And while the king gets the command of an army to conquer an empire, the beggar will become a leader himself, but perhaps the leader of a gang of pickpockets or something like that. The same principles, in effect, apply to the horary chart as well, with an important difference in the choice of significators. While in the nativity, an important role is played by the fixed stars, by the luminaries, even by the so-called lord of activity or profession that, according to Ptolemy and to Lilly as well, is either Mars or Mercury or Venus. In the horary chart, instead, the basic template is simpler and sorry, I was looking at the chart. Sorry. Is simpler and sees the Lord of the Ascendant representing the Querent and the Lord of the MC representing honors and success. I have chosen the most straightforward among the chart presented by Lilly in the chapters dedicated to the 10th house of success. It is this one, and it is a curious chart because Lilly presents it twice. The first time for a question, a political question about the progress of the war, if His Majesty should procure forces out of Ireland to harm the Parliament. But after only 4 or 5 minutes, a client came in propounding his own question, if I attain the preferment, that is the promotion desired. Oddly enough, Lilly doesn't tell us anything about the querent of the first political question, and this is unusual in Christian astrology, where we have, generally speaking, at least some information about the querent, if not the name, of course. In this case, there is nothing. So an hypothesis is that the person could be Lilly's patron, an important politician of the parliamentary side. But I think that the very short time lapse between the two questions, only 5 minutes at most, suggests that the querent could have been Lilly himself. We imagine him totally absorbed in the calculations to answer his own political question about the progress of the civil war when he was interrupted suddenly by a client, a real client, asking for his services. So the chart remains the same, writes Lilly. I will say almost the same, because there is a small difference in the degree of the ascendant and MC, just 1 degree anyway. Well, The two main significators, as we said before, are in this case Venus and the moon, because Venus is the lord of the ascendant, representing the querent, while the moon is the lord of the mid-heaven, representing the preferment or promotion or position desired. Well, Venus is only peregrine without real essential dignity, but at least she is in her house of joy, the fifth. But the moon is very, very strong in this chart. The moon is in her domicile and phase in Cancer, and in an angular house that is very strong, and in the 10th house that, in this case, represents the preferment desired, success in the question. So Lilly writes that the presence of the moon in that house is already a small, partial testimony in favor of success. Another partial testimony is the presence of the North Node at the ascendant, the North Node which elevates and increases. But this is not enough, because attaining a preferment, so obtaining a promotion, a position, is, after all, an event. And like all the events of this kind, this needs the perfection of an applying aspect, ideally between the two main significators, Moon and Venus. But this is impossible in this chart, because Venus and the Moon are in signs that don't see nor observe each other, so no possible aspect between them. But there is another aspect. The Moon is going to complete a trine to Saturn without prohibition and without obstacles. And what is Saturn in this chart? Well, Saturn is, first of all, the lord of Venus, the dispositor of Venus, because Venus is in Aquarius. Then Saturn is in mutual reception with Venus, because Saturn is in Pisces, exaltation of Venus, and Venus is in Aquarius, the sign or domicile of Saturn. Then Saturn is also dispositor of the part of fortune. So Saturn represents fortune itself in this chart. Not only, Saturn has huge dignity in the degree of the ascendant by exaltation, triplicity, and terms. So Saturn is to be considered the almuten of the degree of the ascendant. So the best possible substitute for Venus. And Venus is the querent. So the trine that is completing without obstacles between the Moon and Saturn as substitute of Venus means achievement, means success. It means that the attainment of the preferment desired. Well, Lilly, after this, sees that the Sun, that is the lord of the 11th house of friends and assistance, is in the 7th house, conjunct the South Node and opposing the ascendant. From all this, he guesses that this querent, in order to obtain the position, had asked a friend for help and to give him a leg up. The person is perfectly able to do this because the Sun is exalted in Aries. But in this case, he proves a false friend because of the connection with the South Node. So the Sun, the person in question, the false friend, instead of helping the querent, opposes his ambitions. In fact, the sun is opposing the ascendant, and the sun is also in the sign of detriment of Venus. So he's probably envious of Venus. He wants to damage the querent. Lilly, who loves surprising his clients, describing the physical appearance of people involved who has never seen in his life, only by means of the features he sees in the chart, tells the client that this man has a scar on his face because the sun is in Aries, and Aries represents that part of the body, the face, and also that he has dark hair because the sun is afflicted and symbolically darkened by the south node. So the client, the querent, recognizes the description of this false friend, and thanks to the master's advice, he will obtain the preferment desired in spite of the obstacles put by the friend who wanted to obstacle him instead of helping him. And all this within 3 weeks. Why 3? Because the moon must run 3 degrees in order to complete the trine to Saturn. I conclude by saying that as Lilly says that the fixed stars are so important as indicators of success, we should expect him to mention at least the fact that the star Sirius, that is after all the brightest star of our northern sky, is culminating at the MC at the very moment of the question. But he doesn't say anything. There is a reason for this, and the reason is philosophical, I would say, and it is the same reason why he, on the contrary, makes an intensive and extensive use of fixed stars in the analysis of nativities. But this is another story, and there is no more time to speak of that, and I hope we will have occasion to speak of this in the future, perhaps. Thank you
very much. It was a great presentation. Thank you really very much for all this information. Rome is pretty close to Athens, so I'm pretty sure that I'm going to see you next September. Are you in Rome? I don't remember. I think you are a little north.
Yes, I'm not. I'm in Modena. Modena is my.
Yeah, you're Modena.
Yes.
But it's still close. So I'm very happy to see you next September in Athens in the conference. Thank you again very much for your time. And we will be in contact for upgrades in information about the upcoming conference.
Thank you, Christos.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
And let's go to Greece again. Γεια σου, Γιάννη. Για προσπάθησε να μου μιλήσεις. Can you hear me, Yannis? I don't think so. He can hear me. Can you hear me? Yanni? I cannot hear you, Yanni. So just keep your camera, but I will let at least the Greek one has problems, so I can call him with my phone, and so you can speak through the phone.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Στα ελληνικά.
Έχεις μια καθυστέρηση, οπότε τώρα δεν ξέρω από πού θα μιλήσεις.
Θα μιλήσουμε μάλλον από κινητό, από ό,τι καταλαβαίνω.
Ναι, γιατί απλά κάνε mute το mic σου, γιατί τώρα έχει μια καθυστέρηση.
Ναι.
Το mic εννοώ, ωραία. Εγώ σε βάζω, λοιπόν, και απλά θα μου λες, μπορείς να αλλάξεις το PowerPoint όποτε θέλεις.
Ναι, μπορώ να το επιλέγω μόνος μου.
Βεβαίως. Okay, in English.
Yes. Slides. You can change the slide, Crystal.
Now we have the third slide about the perfected ascendant according to the age.
Okay. As we can see from the diagram, each year of life corresponds to one sign. So if one is born with a Libra ascendant, at the age of his birth, he would be Libra. At his first birth year, he would be Scorpio, and so on and so on. It's a very simple technique, and it can be used every year of a person's life. If you want to look at a particular year, if you can change the next slide, we can go further.
I have done.
Yes, my system is very slow, and I can see the slides we are talking about.
Now I'm showing the social study in ambition, power, the 10th, the 3rd, and the 5th house. It's the slide number 5.
We are talking about Queen Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth's marriage in 1947. We can see that she was at that year 21 years old. And according to this system, when one is 21 years old, it's a 10th house perfection. It means that the ascendant has arrived at the 10th sign from the natal sign. So you see that she has a Capricorn rising and a Libra in the 10th house. When she was 21 years old, the ascendant arrived at the midheaven, at Libra. So that means that at that particular year, the ruler, the planetary ruler, was Venus. And Venus, we all know, deals with matters having to do with relationships. Where do we see her Venus in her natal chart? She is in Pisces in the 3rd house. And what is the 3rd house? The 3rd house is the house of siblings. It has to do with brothers, sisters, cousins, etc. So there is a direct link between Venus as an archetypal planet about relationships in the 3rd house, dealing with siblings. And we see that she is an exaltation in Pisces. And also Venus is ruler of Taurus, her 5th house. So that means that at that particular year, in 1947, 3 houses come to the foreground. The 10th house, Libra, Pisces, the sign containing the ruler of the year, and Taurus, the 5th house. This means that we have an idea, a first idea of what is going to happen at that particular year. If we can go one slide further.
Done it.
Okay. We can use, with this system, the other predictive system, solar return, Solar return is a system that calculates a chart according to the birthday of one person. And since she is born at 21 April, 21st April of, 21st April, we can see that at the year when the solar return was active in 1947, we can see the planets, all the planets, the transiting planets, where they were at that particular year. Because what have we done until now? We have found that Venus is the primary ruler of the year. Okay, so we see Venus in Pisces, but at the solar return of that same year, Venus was also in Pisces. This emphasizes the particular house, the third house, siblings. And we see also that the ascendant of that particular year in the solar return was also in the third house in Pisces. This technique is very easy to understand and to pinpoint the major events that are possible to occur in a particular year under examination. So we see here Venus at 25 Pisces, and we see in the chart, the outer chart, the solar return chart, that Jupiter is also at 25 Scorpio. This means that there is an exact line between Venus and Jupiter. So Venus is the primary ruler of the year, and Jupiter at that particular year was very active and made a very strong and close contact with Venus. We see Jupiter also on the 10th house, on the midheaven, and this is a clear indication that a major event is going to happen at that particular year. We see also that the profected sun, yes, that's the solar return. Okay, no, we are going to go further. This technique, as you can see, uses the profections along with the solar return chart and combines them both to give a clearer picture of what is going to happen at a particular year. We can go a step further. The next slide.
I'm in the slide of social study, ambition, power, and home, fatherland, ancestry of Adolf Hitler. Okay.
We have the chart of Adolf Hitler. What do we see here? We are we are examining the year 1934. What happened then? He was already a chancellor of Germany, but in August 1934, he became absolute dictator after the death of President von Hindenburg. As we can see, his perfected ascendant that particular year was also the 10th house. This has to do with social standing, ambition, power, authority, etc. What do we see in his chart? In his natal chart, we see that the moon ruling the 10th house is in Capricorn. And then when we apply the technique of perfections, of annual perfections, we see that he was 45 years old when he became absolute dictator. And this means that his 10th house was activated and ruler of the year was the moon. We can go a step further to look at the next slide. And what do we see here? In his solar return of that particular year, we see that the moon, the solar return moon, was in the 10th house, in his natal 10th house. This further emphasizes the role of the 10th house. And we see here the axis of the 10th and the 4th very strong. What is the 10th house? Social standing, ambition, power. What is the 4th house? Home, fatherland, ancestry. These topics were very important to his life at that particular year when he became an absolute dictator of Germany. We can go a step further. The next slide.
Okay.
And see the solar return of that year, where we saw Venus, the moon in Cancer in the 10th house. So the moon as ruler of the year became very prominent because she occupied the sign of the perfected ascendant. And then, if we use other techniques, we can see that during August of 1934, when President Hindenburg died and Hitler became absolute dictator of Germany, 5 to 7 days before the death of President Hindenburg, took place a lunar eclipse on the axis of the ascendant of the midheaven and IC of Hitler's chart. We can see how the moon is highlighted during that particular period in his life. Yes, you see that you see the moon here in a circle. She is in the 10th house, the moon in the 4th house. This is the axis of the 10th and the 4th. That has to do with social standing, with career and power and real leadership. And the 4th house has to do with home and fatherland. We can do another, we can go a slide further.
Okay.
And see the chart of an anonymous case. We see in this chart that it has Aries ascendant, and the ruler of Aries, Mars, is in Scorpio in the 8th house. If we see this configuration, the ruler of the first in the 8th house, and especially if that planet is a malefic, and in Hellenistic astrology, Mars is a malefic, especially in the day chart, as we can see, because we see the sun above the horizon. This means that it has a potential in the natal chart that this person sooner or later is going to deal with matters having to do with losses and deaths. These are the topics of the 8th house. If we go a slide further.
A slide further, there is nothing else.
That's okay. That's okay. What do we see here? We see the age of the 12th year of the 12th, because that person lost her parent. We are talking about a female here. Lost her parent when she was 12 years old. 12 years old means that the ascendant is Aries, because 12 are the signs and 12 are the years. So that means that that particular year, Mars became activated at that particular year. And this means that at that year, in 1981, she was 12 years old, Mars became the activated planet, the ruler of that year, and thus brought events dealing with 8th house matter. What do we see now? If we look at the solar return planets of that same year, we see that the ruler of the year, Mars, has arrived in Aquarius. So Mars occupied the sign of the sun, because the sun is in Aquarius. Hellenistic tradition has it that when a malefic, especially the malefic out of sect, arrives at the sign of the light of the light of sect, the sun does. This means that that particular year becomes problematic. What do we see now? That Mars in Aquarius, at the solar return, squares his own position, Mars in Scorpio. So this has to do with the natal aspect. As we can see, there is a Sun-Mars square in the natal chart. A Sun with Mars affliction, especially if Mars is the out of set malefic, and especially and more so if Mars is in a difficult house, as is the 8th house. This means that at that particular year, themes and topics dealing with 8th house matters, with the sun, and sun, we all know in astrology, is a father figure, is a symbol of the father. All of these events, as we can see, through Mars as the ruler of that year, brought all those themes in the forefront. This technique thus explains certain things, because not all transits are the same. By this I mean that not all planets are effective with the same way. If a planet becomes ruler of that year, he is very sensitive to the transits of that planet, the transiting planet, the natal positions, the natal planets, and transiting planets making aspect to the ruler of that year, to that particular planet. So in the case we are examining, the last case with the Aries ascendant, this means that transiting Mars, by the way, I have to say this. This person lost her father in May 1981. If we look particularly at the transits of May 1981, we see that Mars moves in Taurus. Mars in Taurus means that Mars makes an aspect of opposition with its natal Mars, and Mars in Taurus makes a square with the Sun in Aquarius. And in the solar return, we found Mars in Aquarius. We see here the tense pattern of a T-square between fixed signs. So what does this mean? Mars is a fast-moving planet. But this means that not every year Mars is responsible for such dangerous events. What made that particular year very important and difficult was that Mars became ruler of that year. So annual profections is a very simple method using the age and the number of the years, and deals with that particular planet and focuses on this particular planet, the movement in that particular year, in the 12 months until the next birth year. This is what I wanted to say. I had a very difficult problem tonight because I had no vision of my PowerPoints. I had to talk from my mobile, but I hope that it gave some answers. It highlighted some very important things I wanted to say this evening.
Thank you very much, Yanis. And
Okay.
of course, sometimes we have problem with the presentation. That happens.
Thanks to everybody, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much for your time.
Good night. Good night.
Well, the time is 8:20 and we are already late. So we are going to stop and we are going to continue the next presentations of other people the next day. So it would be mine and of some other astrologers, some small surprises that I have for you for the next conferences, some small talks. So because it is already 2.5 hours, I'm not going to continue today. I'm going to begin tomorrow with my presentation and with some special guests, people that are also going to talk about traditional astrology in the next September 2023 in Athens. And I want to first give my many thanks to the people that they came and speak and share the knowledge. I want to say many thanks to Christian, to Patricia, to Yanis, to Rumen, to Honor, to Esan, and we are going to be again tomorrow together to do all these fascinating presentations about what we're going to see in the next conference in Athens in September 2023. Have a good night and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.